My name is Kate Mckenzie. I am Senior Counsel with the Department of Justice, Office of Privacy and Civil Liberties. And here with me are my delightful colleagues to talk about AI use cases in the public sector.
My name is Jonnie Bradley, and I am the Senior Program Manager at the U.S. Department of Energy for the Artificial Intelligence and Technology Office. And I am also the the responsible AI official for the department. And I apologize, my daughter says I have a alphabet soup title, so sometimes it gets me tripped up, but I play two roles over at the Department of Energy.
I'm Jamie Holcombe. I'm the CIO, Chief Information Officer at the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
Fabulous. Okay, so we're going to go through some questions and then hopefully save time for questions at the end. We'll see how we do. So I just want to sort of level set and start the conversation by talking about what makes public sector use of AI different. What are some of the unique challenges that we face in our individual agencies implementing artificial intelligence, and what are some ways that you're mitigating it, those challenges? We'll start with Jonnie.
Okay. At the Department of Energy, I would say, let me first kind of like give you an idea of Department of Energy. You have 17 national laboratories, and you also have headquarters, right? So whenever I'm speaking, I might flip between the two, but I'll let you know which one I'm talking about. So in this instance, the national laboratories, when it comes to AI, we could check that box, okay? Those 17 national laboratories have that 100% locked up, okay? So I'm gonna move over now to where the challenges reside is more in our headquarters office. And in headquarters, you have that everyday person doing those redundant tasks over and over again. And because AI was never like really explained, because they don't really dabble in it every day like the labs do, because the labs are doing the mission work, even though at the headquarters level, they're doing the mission work also, but they're more of the behind the scenes mission work, ensuring that the labs have everything that they need to do that work. So they don't get their hands into the AI like the laboratories do. And with that being said, they see what you see on TV. So I don't think that we in the public or the private did that everyday person much justice, because we never really demystified AI, right? We kind of have AI looking like it's this cyborg, like we just saw, right? And that it's just gonna come and it's just gonna take them out of their seat, and somebody else is gonna sit there and they're never gonna have another job again because the world is gonna be nothing but AI, right? And that's not so. You still do need that human in the loop. So therefore, that's the challenge that we mainly have at Department of Energy, is getting those individuals to understand or better understand AI, as well as giving them opportunities to be able to play with AI kind of like in a sandbox. And that's what our office is working on, giving them those opportunities to actually see how AI could work and benefit them.
Fabulous. And Jamie, how about at the USPTO? Challenges?
Yeah, there's a lot of great challenges at the Patent and Trademark Office, but one thing to think about with public and private partnership is the fact that we are actually asking for the public to participate in the rulemaking. And what is that? I don't know if you're aware of it, but the NPRM process is the notice of public rulemaking that everybody can see in the Federal Register. All you have to do is look up Federal Register and you look at what's going on. You can search it and everything else. We want public comment about what AI should be. And I'm reaching out to you to give us that public comment, because the United Kingdom and Australia are considering in their parliament in creating a brand new classification for intellectual property, being artificial intelligence. So should we go down that route too? I have personal opinions that they do not reflect the administration, all right? So I just want to say that. I'm talking from Jamie's viewpoint. My opinions are mine and mine alone. I don't think we should go down that path. Right now, the official stance is an applicant can only be a human being or a corporate entity. I don't think that a player piano, if you randomize the actual plug-in to a player piano, that plugin cannot be an applicant to a copyright on a song it produces. Just doesn't make any sense, right? It's the person who programmed that player piano. And so we want public comment about what you think. Can AI be an applicant? Right now it can't. and I agree with that. There has to be somebody to attest to the fact that they created the artificial intelligence and the results. And we're going to get talking a lot more on that because it is a public-private partnership, and we shouldn't over-regulate something that we don't understand right now. And it's tough when we have people making decisions that don't understand what they're deciding on.
And Jamie, you bring up a fabulous point, which is there are laws that apply to specifically the federal government in ways that they don't apply to the private sector. For example, I'm a privacy attorney. So the Privacy Act of 1974, the E-Government Act, these apply to the federal government anytime we are doing anything with personally identifiable information, which is interpreted very, very broadly. So there's a bit of a Venn diagram between artificial intelligence use cases and those that implicate PII. And you have that sweet spot where all of the privacy laws that we have governing how the federal government uses and comes into contact with PII, those same laws are going to apply to our use of artificial intelligence already, absent some sort of new forthcoming AI-specific regulation. So we've addressed some of the challenges. We've all recognized we're overcoming those challenges now, and we have successful AI use cases in all of our different agencies. So why don't we just take a couple minutes and highlight some of those important use cases? We'll go backwards, reverse order. It's a snake draft this time. Okay, Jamie, your turn. Go ahead.
Sure. I have 3 use cases for artificial intelligence. They are classification of patents, searching, and fraud detection. In each of those cases, we started 2.5 years ago. And I have to say, I don't want to call it artificial intelligence anymore. I want to call it augmented intelligence. And why is that? Because it doesn't replace the examiner. It actually augments each individual examiner based on their custom preferences. And so we are augmenting them in the way the algorithms actually present back to them. Thumbs up, thumbs down, relative ranking, and so forth on their unique searches of 9 petabytes of addressable data. It's a huge amount of data. So they're searching and they're trying to find out if this idea, this innovation, this creative new invention is actually unique and novel. And so I don't know how they do it myself. I'm in awe of the examiners because they have to check databases all over the world and compare and contrast. We need to give them the tools that are required. And we've introduced those tools about 2.5 years ago. Before that, they were actually doing Boolean word searches on different literature throughout the world. I can't believe it. They actually did Boolean searches using char -3, char +2. It was crazy. Now they at least have a GUI and they're doing it a lot more effectively with a lot more quality because they're actually paying attention to the content and the words rather than the actual administration or the clerical process of searching. Also, there's a classification, which has proved to be really great for saving a lot of money and a lot of time. We're classifying things based on the algorithms that we've trained over the past 2.5 years. And it took about 2 years to get to a precision rate of about 94%. One of the things I like to say is whenever you're doing this, you have to make sure you curate your data. That's another big challenge with the government. We do have a lot of dirty data that's never been cleaned up before. And so whatever purpose you're using your data for, you have to, and that's hard because it's huge data sets. You have to make sure they're clean. We actually got diminishing returns in our classification. So we had to go back, clean up our data in order to improve the precision. So classification was the second one. And the third one is pattern recognition with fraud detection. And so that's the 3 use cases.
Fantastic. And how about for energy?
So for energy, of course, mine aren't going to be that simple to say. So we're a little bit more on the research side. So because we're on the West Coast, this should ring a bell. Wildfires. One of our projects was looking at wildfires and their fuel loads. And the fuel load, for those of you who don't know, that's when you have a lot of rain to come through. And when that rain comes through, you get a lot of green vegetation. And then eventually that vegetation just dries out, right? So now you have a lot more that can burn than what could have burned before you got all that rain. So that's your fuel load. So what they've done is they started looking at pictures from space to look at where these forests are getting these fuel loads. And when the fuel load, when it starts to die out and it dries out, that's your opportune time now is to set up a mitigation plan or a way to get ready for the next wildfire, basically. So using those, using AI to actually go through all of those photographs. And for those of you that know, those pictures run all day, every day that are taking pictures of the earth. You just need to see, what area of the earth that you're looking at. But they have found that if they look at those pictures, they can actually determine where the next wildfire will start. Okay. Now, I will add something to that. In that project, they did not add looking at pictures where everything was already dried out. My colleague here, Jason Talley, we actually flew over the Grand Canyon yesterday. Didn't realize that was like 4 hours away. So my geospatial data was wrong. I don't know what we thought, but we were on a total day trip yesterday. So when we flew over, what we did see is where there was not a very high fuel load. Looking down on the ground, it was not a high fuel load, but lightning was literally striking those trees and they looked like burnt toothpicks. So now when we go back, I need to get back in touch with some folks and say, hey, you need to start pulling those actual pictures where the fuel load is low as well, because I'm quite sure the way those trees were struck and burnt, that could have easily set a fire. So that's just one. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So just to round it out, I will share a use case from the law enforcement side while making a plug for the law enforcement panel that's happening tomorrow, Law Enforcement Intelligence and Defense. But at the Department of Justice, we have a number of different component agencies within the department. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, uses an artificial intelligence system called TIPS, Threat Intake Processing System. So the FBI gets tons and tons of anonymous tips. And they used to have individual humans going through and analyzing these and putting them together to determine what was valuable intelligence, what required resources, where was an emergent threat. Now they're deploying artificial intelligence to do that faster, more effectively, and get resources to the public where they really, really need it. So I think this is a great example of different ways that the federal government is using AI to be more efficient, more effective, and ultimately carry out our missions in the best way possible. So some of the key words when we're talking about artificial intelligence use is governance. How are we governing this? And how are we making sure that we as federal agencies are using artificial intelligence ethically? Do your agencies have specific ethical guidelines? What are you looking at for ethical guidance in your implementation of artificial intelligence?
Are we snaking?
You will snake this way now.
So it goes back to me. Okay. So actually our office, we actually are the governance structure for Department of Energy. So what we look at mainly is, let me start at what we've actually put in place. What we put in place is, one is like our jewel, you'll say, is our AI risk management playbook. And that is a interactive playbook that is actually on our website. So if you go to energy.gov/AI, okay.
Love it.
Then you'll see you'll be on the AITO website at that point, and you will see that we have this interactive guide. The interactive guide is something that allows individuals that are stepping into or beginning to work in AI, they can, you can filter it and it will give you a risk for something that you may be working on, and it will also give you mitigation for that risk. The AI risk management playbook was actually looked at by NIST, was one of the places, and OSTP, which is the Office of Science and Technology and Policy. So that's one of ours. Something else that we offer to the department is annual AI training, which talks about ethical principles and guidelines of that nature. And that's an annual basis that we do that. We also have a consistency plan. So if someone is working in AI and they are deciding, and again, I'm talking on the headquarters level, not the laboratory level. So if you're looking at something and you want to create AI solution, I don't know, to kind of like streamline something that you're doing, in order for you to do that, we need, if you're bringing in an outside solution for that type of work, which 9 times out of 10, that's how it will work, we would need to know, how do you ensure that that system is responsible and trustworthy from the beginning of the life cycle of AI all the way to the end, as far as monitoring in the future as well. Without that consistency plan, as the responsible AI official, I will have to shut it down, okay? But if you can show us that you can keep it consistent and you can ensure that it's responsible and trustworthy, it gets to run its course. So, thanks.
And I will just chime in and say the responsible AI official that Jonnie's talking about, this is something that was created in Executive Order 13960, which is where a lot of the federal government looks for principles in requirements of your use of artificial intelligence and requires every agency to have at least one, if not multiple, responsible AI officials. Okay, Jamie, over to you.
Darn it, you took my first answer. All right.
Shoot, I'm sorry.
So the next answer is we also use the blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights. And we use NIST, the National Institute of Science and Technology, their risk management framework. That's an important part of things, right? And finally, NTIA, if you didn't know who that is, that's a National Telecommunications and Information Administration. They currently have one of those notice of public rulemaking. In this case, it's a request for comment specifically on algorithms accountability. And so if you're in the public and you'd really like things to be accountable, please put in your comments to NIST, because right now it's out there on how to account for algorithms. And I will put a plug in for us. The USPTO has an artificial intelligence patent data set. Go out there, use it. We have 9 petabytes that's online. Now, I don't think it's that easy to use, but I've been told, oh, come on, you're too hard on your guys. Okay, you can get almost any data that you want from the USPTO's AI database. So go out there and get it.
That's great. Yeah, so I mean, this is wonderful. I think as federal agencies, we all start with the Executive Order 13960, and then agencies can develop their own policies that fall under that are a bit more specific to their mission set. The Department of Justice, we have some agencies that sit both in the law enforcement community, but then also have elements that are part of the intelligence community. So those elements would be responsible for complying with ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. They have their own AI ethic principles as well. So we have to make sure we're complying with that as well as 13960. And the department's in the process of developing its own ethical principles on AI, following our AI strategy. So it's just interesting to see how it plays out in similarity and in unique differences across different departments. Okay, so that's what we're doing in-house. Let's talk about what we're doing to collaborate with private sector, academia. Are these areas where you are collaborating with other AI entities? We'll snake back that way and go to Jamie.
I love talking about Kaggle, Kaggle. It's a code competition hosted by Google. So the USPTO put up $25,000. Now, I don't know if I told you this before, but we are a fee-based organization. We don't take 1 penny of the taxpayers' money. All right. So that $25,000 came out of fees that we collect for patents and trademarks. Well, in this case, patents. What do? The Kaggle competition was such. It was a patent search, phrase-to-phrase context matching. And we set it up for around the world. And that $25,000 was split up into first prize at $12,500, second prize at $7,500, and third prize at $5,000. And what it was to take the contextual phraseology of one industry and match it to the phraseology of another industry, because they're pretty much the same thing, such that a patent examiner could actually go between industries. Even though it's a different word, it's the same idea, and therefore have a greater accuracy and precision in their examination. We held that for 4 months, and that was worldwide crowdsourcing of that code challenge. We had over 1,800 teams and 2,100 individual applicants. It was phenomenal because it was academics, all the universities in America, as well as R&D institutes, biomedical and so forth. And I gave the prize over in Madrid, Spain. So it had a whole international flair to it. And those algorithms are now part of the public dialogue. You can use it. It's open source. That's part of the competition. So that's a public-private partnership that we need to replicate, because if you think I could have gotten a system integrator around the DC Beltway area to do anything for me for $25,000, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Jonnie, how about energy?
So energy, let's see. We have a couple things. All right, so I have two. One is we have an international partnership with Norway. Normally, when I say that or Jason says that, the first thing people ask is why Norway? And I'm thinking, why not, right? But Norway is a very rich country in their data. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. So when you look at offshore winds, okay, the US does not have complex terrain, right? We just sit our turbines out there in the water, we get the wind, and we're good, right? But what you got to understand is in Norway, they have mountains beneath their water. So they have complex terrain. And that's the data that the US wants, okay? DOE wants that data. And the handshake comes in with Norway doesn't have high performance computing. So we do. So there's your handshake. You do something for us, we do something for you. That gives us a valid partnership, right? So that's one of the things that we have. The second one that we have is with academia. And this is with the SETI Institute and the Frontier Development Laboratory, which is actually in Sunnyvale, California. And it was like a 45-minute plane ride over here. So it was real quick to get to AI4 in time. But what we do with them is they are postdocs that are actually defending their thesis, or we have just researchers that haven't gotten that far. They do have their masters and they're working on their PhDs as well. So in the case of those, there are actually challenges. And it's offices within DOE that say, hey, look, we're working on this and we need help. We're busy over here. Can you all help us out with a challenge? And they pose a challenge. So I can give you the one that we had just recently. And it was to help the IAEA, which stands for International Atomic Energy Agency. They are responsible for looking for canisters that have uranium in them that are not being reported properly, okay? So people may be making, little side stuff, and those are my words, Jonnie's words, not DOE's words, but people are making things on the side that they shouldn't be. And what they had to do was be able to identify what these canisters look like if they were just sitting in a park, if it may have been by a body of water, because there are not a lot of actual pictures of these canisters that are just circulating around, right? So I actually have to stop there because I can't tell you how it went because it's not ready for the public yet. So I do apologize for that. But I can say that they did a phenomenal job. So hopefully that helps. When it comes out, if you ever go to the SETI Institute website, the information on that project I'm speaking on now, the algorithms will be put out publicly, so they will be for use, as well as it will describe the entire project that I just stated. So, but I wish I could tell you all how it went, but I can't. So, but it will be out soon. Okay.
That's fascinating. This is so tremendously encouraging to hear these collaborations between private sector, academia, and the public government, working together to further artificial intelligence incorporation. So as people who are working in this every day, from the public space, what is your vision for AI use in the future? If this was your dream world, how would you see it going? Where would you see the public sector use of AI in the future?
Are we snaking?
We can snake.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
snake.
If I had to say, I would look at past initiatives that whenever those initiatives came out, and I'll give you an example, we had the Public Interest Declassification Board, and what they were doing was trying to declassify classified documents. I know you all hear that a lot in the news, classified documents and declassifying them. That is actually a very cumbersome job for an analyst. They literally have to read line by line, right? So the furthest that they got back in that time, whenever I was a part of that board, was they came up with some really like Google search on steroids. That was about all it was. But the problem is that it did not differentiate Penguin, the project, Penguin, the suit, Penguin, the animal, Penguin. You see what I'm saying? So it would not differentiate any of that. It would bring back every penguin or anything that looked like a penguin, right? So that was an issue. So that meant that analyst still had a lot more reading to do. Today, because we have AI, I would love to see past initiatives, even down to the Broadband Opportunity Council, just things that we've had in government, initiatives that we tried to work with to help the public, to help the private sector, the public, however you want to look at it. But whenever you're working towards stuff like that, it gets lost, right? It kind of gets lost. People aren't interested in it anymore. And I would love to see that come back to the forefront because DOE was a part of both of those. And I would really like to see how AI could now help with expanding broadband out into rural communities, as well as helping to declassify classified documents. Because it's a lot of stuff that's out there, believe it or not, that we as the public really would want to see and read, believe it or not. We have like retention on documents that is 85 years. I don't even know if you can even understand what a 65-year-old document looks like and what that bug looks like that's stuck to that document, and that bug does not even exist today, and that bug will have you screaming, and he's dead and flat, and I can't go on, but definitely you want to declassify and you want to try to digitize this type of stuff for public consumption.
Well, I'll go to the basics. In the long term, I think that what we've hit upon will actually change the way people learn. And I say that because so often learning has been lecturing. I talk to you. In fact, I don't even like this setting right now. I'd much rather have questions and figure out what you guys want to know and then answer rather than us just wah, 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 wah. I thought the Peanuts was great. Anyway, the thing about learning then is it will change at the elementary level and so forth. And we're going to start learning. The knowledge will be done through the artificial intelligence, the new interfaces, and they'll be experiential. It won't just be, you talking into something. It will be you interacting with something. Because when you're engaged, you learn a lot more. And academics, I don't have value in academics other than in introduction of knowledge, understanding. Unless you engage and experience something, you really don't know it. So I think experience has a lot more to do with learning than anything. So if we look at it that way, and then learning will change, then research and development will change as well, because you'll be actually challenging the status quo on so many different things by engaging with different simulations. And, we're unleashing power of the world and all these different people that heretofore haven't had the access to the knowledge. And so what I'm trying to do is actually so that's the big woo, the philosophy and everything. But when you get down to the basics, I'm trying to get the examiner, that search tool, I'm trying to make it available to the average inventor, the public, so that they can do their own examination and not submit something if they figure out it's not unique. Somebody else has already done this. I don't like the industry that's out there that has millions and millions of dollars just because, they don't have the legal knowledge. I want to create something that's more democratic and so that you can actually go after it. And I think artificial intelligence, the large language models, actually have the ability to take down all this legalese and make it more understandable for people. That's my vision.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I will wax poetic for just a second before we open it up for questions, but truly, in my wildest dreams, I would love to see the federal government leading by example in this space, right? I would love to see us be early adopters in an ethical, responsible, safe way, using this technology to better serve the public. In a way that's transparent and in a way that allows us to carry out our missions. My agency is a law enforcement agency. Our role and our job is to protect the public. And if we can leverage this technology to do that in a better way, I am all for it. So people have said when you have a large government organization, it's like turning the Titanic, right? So when you're dealing with the government, there's a lot of institutional bureaucracy. There are laws that we have to comply with that private sector doesn't necessarily have to. So it makes it a little bit harder, but that would be my vision, would be that we were leading by example in the right way to be using this technology.